Hello everybody, I'm the lawyer Ismaele Brancaccio of the international law firm Brancaccio and Esposito, and today I will explain to you what are the Interpol Red Notice and what to do if these are applied. If a completely arbitrary arrest has been made against one of your family member on the basis of an old procedure already resolved, it is possible that you are still registered in the Interpol database. When a person has committed a crime and is not found on the national territory, the central authority of that country where the crime was committed send a report to Interpol, and so the name of the wanted person therefore is issued to all the police forces of almost all the nations present in the world. Before risking being arrested due to an Interpol Red Notice, it is advisable to proceed in this direction. First, make a request to Interpol to check if your name is registered in the database. In some cases, Interpol relies this type of information. Second, if your name is registered in the database and therefore you risk being arrested, you must proceed with removal request of the Interpol Red Notice. Before seeing how it is possible to remove an Interpol Red Notice, let's see in detail what it is. The Interpol Red Notice is a request sent to police forces of all around the world in order to arrest a person on the basis of a sentence or a measure issued by a national or international judicial authority. So, the application of the Interpol Red Notice is requested directly by the police forces of a state in order to alert all the international police forces about the search of a person against whom a restrictive measure of the personal freedom is applied. Clearly, it is a measure applied on the basis of a request made directly by the judicial authority to the national police forces, only later communicated to Interpol by the national police, which means that once the provision applied by the national judge is removed, the cancellation of the Interpol Red Notice must be also proceed immediately. The Red Notice of Interpol can be published only if the following cumulative conditions exist. First, the crime is concerned is a crime of particular seriousness. Second, the conduct that constitutes the crime is punishable by a maximum penalty that provides for deprivation of freedom of at least 2 years or more severe penalty. In the event that a person is wanted for the execution of a prison sentence, the penalty imposed have to be minimum of 6 months of prison. As mentioned before, it is always possible to request the removal of the Interpol Red Notice. Clearly, at the basis of the removal request, there must always be a provision of a national judicial authority which stabilizes the revocation of the sentence or of the provisional limiting personal freedom. Once the revocation of the measure has been obtained, a request must be made to the Commission for the Control of Interpol file, arguing the reason of the removal Interpol Red Notice. The request must be necessarily made in one of the languages established by the Interpol Commission, namely French, English, Spanish, or Arabic. This is an extremely complex act, having to provide a complete examination regarding the reason that will have to determine the removal of the Interpol Red Notice. Therefore, it will be always advisable to proceed with an expert lawyer of Interpol Red Notice. The request of removal of the Interpol Red Notice from the database must be written in English, French, Spanish, or Arabic. It is advisable to use the application form provided on the Interpol website. The document supporting the request must be attached translated into one of the accepted official languages, so in French, Spanish, English, or Arabic, and clearly the request must be sent by post. Yes, for sure you can, through a request made directly to the Commission for the Control of the Interpol file. It will also be possible to request information on the presence of a red notice of Interpol against the individual subject. This request may be fully made by a lawyer on the basis of a power of attorney specifically granted for the request to Interpol, representing the reason that justify the request to the Commission. This request must be also made in one of the languages chosen by the Interpol Commission, namely English, French, Spanish, or Arabic. This is an extremely complex matter that certainly requires a specific national and international competence of the lawyer, as well as specific language training to proceed with a good communication with the Interpol offices. In case of application of an Interpol Red Notice, it is therefore necessary to immediately contact an international lawyer, who can promptly formulate, as soon as possible, all the appropriate communication and request to the Interpol Central Commission in order to not compromise the personal freedom of the assisted person. Because once you have deleted your name in the Interpol database, you will no longer have the risk of being arrested once stopped by the police.